Putting on the bridle reins. Come a cow, cow, yiggy, come a cow, cow, yiggy, yiggy, yiggy. Come a cow, cow, yiggy, come a cow, cow, yiggy, yiggy, yiggy. Oh, the heart is bad.
What's up, Vinyl Community? YouTube. Welcome to Blues Fest. Welcome to Blues Fest 2020. Alright. How you doing out there, gang? Cheers. I've got this one's what am I doing here? Yeah, this one's sponsored by Shiner, a Texas beer, Shiner Light Blonde. My Shiner preference would be Shiner Bock, the dark, but hey, check out this little alien shirt. You guys know I'm into that scene, right? All right, here's what's going on. I don't know why, I just got a hankering to do a Vinyl Finds video. I mean, I'm so far behind as far as I've gotten so many records, and I'm falling behind on showing some really great stuff. And I'm telling you, this may be, and I am not lying here. I'm not exaggerating. You know, Cosmic Brian, he tends to exaggerate a little bit. I mean, he's over the top. His channel, Cosmic Vinyl, is over the top. The Cosmic Realm is over the top. Welcome to all those, by the way. See how I spun that around so I could do the intro thing? Anyway, this is perhaps my best Vinyl Finds video to date. The content here, and I am not exaggerating, the content here may be some of the highest quality content that I've ever shown in a Vinyl Community Vinyl Finds video. I believe this is number 41, by the way, so circle that on your God blessed calendar. So what we're listening to right off the get-go here is something that I picked up. I actually showed this briefly during the Bubblegum, the first Bubblegum video that I did, which part 3 is coming. Just part 3 is coming. It's just I wanted to show some of this other stuff first, but I showed this Lead Belly because I believe I showed it because of the band Ram Jam, who did, I'll just get to that later. But anyway, I showed this during a Bubblegum video. And I picked this up a few weeks back at our local antique collectible shop. And when I seen this double album, Lead Belly, Hootie Ledbetter, I had to have it. I mean, now, you don't see Cosmic Vinyl getting into a lot of blues stuff, but I mean, if I'm going to get into some blues stuff, it's going to be this kind of stuff, the old school, the old roots of the blues, the 30s and 40s, like Lead Belly and anybody with a name Howlin' somebody or something. Oh, jeez. Or Blind, a guy with has the prefix Blind on the front of his name. That's the kind of blues that I can really get into, because I just know it's like, it's legitimate, it's real, and so I'll tell you what, I put this on and I was absolutely sucked in. This is a great double album here. It's got basically all his good stuff. This came out on Fantasy Records, and it's, as you can see, it's got quite a track listing there. But yeah, Lead Belly was pretty amazing. A lot of this stuff comes from the 30s and 40s. I'll show you this gatefold because it's pretty wild. Look, right there you can see a mug shot of old Hootie Hootie Ledbetter. And then there's a side view of the old mugshot. Yeah, this Hootie, or Leadbelly, was an American folk blues singer and songwriter. He was basically a virtuoso on the 12-string guitar and multi-instrumentalist. He played piano, he played mandolin, he played harmonica, and he played also played violin, but he also played something called a windjammer, which is also called a melodeon. It's kind of like an it looks like an accordion. I wonder, was there a picture of him with it? I must have seen it. Let me look inside. Maybe it's on the... Oh, by the way, this came with this insert of all these great, like, blues albums. Thelonious and jazz stuff, too. Blues and jazz. Lightning Hopkins, Furry Lewis, Memphis Slim, John Lee Hooker, you know, that, all those greats, all the originals. So yeah, I'm gonna start looking for some of this stuff, because I am, oh man, this album has brought me, that's for sure. But anyway, back to the old Leadbelly. He sings about, you know, he sings gospel, blues, folk. He sings about women, liquor, prison life, which he knows something about, work, sailors, dancing. So, yeah, he also wrote songs and song about real people like Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Jean Harlow, Jack Johnson, Howard Hughes, and even sang about Adolf Hitler. So he was actually inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1988 posthumously. So yeah, he was a badass, man. He did some prison time. He killed a guy. Yeah, he killed a guy. I think maybe even with his bare hands. And he started by playing gigs in like the red light district of like Harlem slums, seedy joints, saloons, brothels, dance halls, and places called the Bottoms. So yeah, he's definitely was living and breathing the life of the blues, and had plenty of stuff to pull from for his stuff to sing about, his lyrical content. So yeah, he paid his dues, man. He lived that life. He, like I said, he was a badass. He actually, I think while he was in prison, I read where he got stabbed in the neck by a fellow prisoner, and he beat and nearly beat the guy to death and nearly killed him with his own knife. You don't screw with Leadbelly. You know what I'm saying? Speaking of Leadbelly, it's kind of a unique nickname, right? I mean, but it's cool. So where did he get the nickname? I'm about to tell you right now. Some say it's a play on his last name, Ledbetter, and like a southern mispronunciation of his name, or maybe even some people like making fun of the name. Or also, there's a story that said he was once shot in the belly and there was some buckshot left in there. Again, badass, Leadbelly, badass. What, bitch? Anyway, another story goes is how he could stomach a lot of moonshine. So not every man could do that. I suppose that's why maybe he did a lot of time in prison and killed a guy and got into fights and stuff. So I'd say maybe the moonshine might have had a little bit to do with it. Who knows? And where he hung out. So, but yeah, my intro, and I'm sure a lot of other people's intro to Leadbelly was likely on the MTV Unplugged with Nirvana, where Kurt sang the song by Leadbelly, "Where Did You Sleep Last Night?" And he talked a little bit even on that show about how Leadbelly's estate wanted to sell him Leadbelly's guitar for like, I don't know, it was like 10 grand or something like that. And he was trying to talk David Geffen from Geffen Records, who's Nirvana's label, into buying Leadbelly's guitar for him. But yeah, didn't happen. Also a band called Ram Jam, which is the reason I showed it in the Bubblegum video. Some guys, one of the guys, or maybe at least one of the guys that went on from the Lemon Pipers, went on to form a band called Ram Jam, who had a single hit known as Black Betty, which I figured out was an actual cover song of a Leadbelly song. So also, I mean, what a great song. Anyway, also George Harrison claims that Leadbelly had such a huge influence on a fella named Lonnie Donegan, who heavily influenced the Beatles when they in the skiffle band scene in Britain. That George Harrison claims, hey, no Leadbelly, no Donnie Lonigan, or no Lonnie Donegan. Hello! Anyway, no Leadbelly, no Lonnie Donegan equals no Beatles. So in a roundabout way, no Leadbelly, no Beatles. And maybe no the British music scene as we know it with the Beatles, the British Invasion band. So, you know, a lot of those guys wanted to be black blues artists. So anyway, there's Leadbelly. I've spent entirely too much time talking about Leadbelly. But I'll tell you one thing, I love this. I recommend this too, and I think you can get it, I don't know, I've seen it priced on eBay for anywhere from $20 to $40. So, and I got this at I'm not even going to tell you the price I got it for because it's just ridiculous. But, yeah, I highly recommend this double album. Now I'm going to bring you to that brings me to a local flavor here. I found this also in the same place where I found the Leadbelly album, a collectibles antique store here in town called Collections. I didn't realize it, but I found out that this is a local. This has local history to it. When I say local, I mean my town, Fort Dodge, Iowa. Here, the band, and it's called, and the album is called Shadrach Chameleon. Now this is still sealed. This is a sealed record, and I haven't yet. You know, I'm not usually one that keeps something sealed. I'm usually one that I don't keep something sealed. But for this artifact, potentially an artifact, I'm going to keep it sealed for now. Because Shadrach Chameleon was not so much a band as it was a collective of local musicians here in my town. They were a combination of a couple of different bands from the late 60s. So Steve Fox and I believe the fella's name is Randy Burka, and I'm not sure which guys are on the back of the record here. I mean, you can tell these are young guys, you know, just some guys that were just wanting to play music and whatnot. But Steve Fox and Randy Burka were the main guys on this record. There was a band called Lazy River, which Burka started, and Steve Fox started a band called Crosstown Traffic. Wonder where he got that name from. I'm going to assume it was probably from the Jimi Hendrix song, but anyway. Apparently tensions ran high in both of these bands, and there was a split in the 70s, okay? Well, some of the guys formed a new band called Goo, which I'm not going to go through all the guys that were in that band, but this brought Burka, Fox, and another fella named John Porter, who was a keyboardist, together, and then Shadrach was born, a group called Shadrach. So in 1972, the owners of IGL Records, which I've not heard of before, I'm not sure if it was an Illinois label or an Iowa label, to be honest. I have to dig into this a bit deeper, and I really need to. But in 1972, they heard Shadrach play, and they were impressed enough to offer them to record a single if they wanted. So, but by 1973, Shadrach was all but done. They were over. So, members went to college and other pursuits, and it just got kind of left on the table. But at the end of 73, various members of bands called Lazy Smoke, Crosstown Traffic, and Shadrach recorded this album, Shadrach Chameleon. It was recorded on a reel-to-reel tape machine in a studio they had built from an old storage shed, and only 300 LPs were pressed and released under the name Shadrach Chameleon. Chameleon, the band was called Shadrach, but Chameleon was kind of added as an afterthought, I guess. So that brings the question, am I holding a sealed artifact here in my hand of a limited 300 record, or 300 pressings of the OG Shadrach Chameleon? And I feel like I am. I haven't done all my research yet, but I need, you know, if some of these guys are still local, I'm going to try and get in touch with them and, you know, show them this. I don't want to open it yet. I have listened to it on YouTube. It's kind of a pop rock, prog rock. I don't know if I'd go as far as to call it hard rock, but there is some, you know, it's kind of a slow, brooding, melancholy, dark. I don't know. It's got great harmonies, great song lyrics. Steve Fox apparently wrote all these songs. I wish I knew which one was Steve here on the back of this, or who's who on the back here. But a lot of the guys that were involved in this were a miscellaneous mix of all those other bands I talked about earlier. Steve Fox, Artie Strutzenberg, Randy Burka, John Porter, Dan Dodger. Is it Dan Dodger or Dodgen? I think it might be Dodgen, and they misprinted it on here. But and then John Bransgard is a hell of a guitar player. There's a little bit of fuzz on here, but it's mostly, you know, slower, almost like ELP, like Emerson, Lake and Palmer stuff. Even here, like a little bit of Procol Harum maybe in here. But yeah, it's an interesting and ambitious album for some local kids out of my town, for sure. So yeah, I need to do a little bit more digging around and find out if what I hold here in my hand is definitely a local artifact, and I'm hoping so much. I mean, it sure looks like it, but we'll see. So that's all I got to say about that one. The next one, everybody out there that's into psych or 70s hard rock is going to recognize this band. How the hell I haven't laid hands on any vinyl from this band is beyond me, but this is the 13th Floor Elevators, Easter Everywhere. Obviously this is a reissue, this isn't an OG, but my friend Scott Lunn, one of my old Dallas buddies, and you know, a guy who was in bands and stuff who I hung out with when we lived down in Texas. He's part of the Gleam team. Hey, Gleams. Big chug to the Gleams out there. Sam, Chad, Scott. Your Gleam brother right here on YouTube. What do you think? Big chug to the Gleams. The Gleams is kind of an inside joke thing, but we call it, it's kind of our group. But anyway, my friend Scott was cool enough to pick this one up at a record store down there in Dallas and mail it to me. But yeah, there's the guys on the back there. When this was released, the cover art was kind of an expensive deal. There was like this front part was gold that like flaked off and stuff, and then these color pictures on the back weren't cheap either, and all the like Buddhist kind of stuff here, very wild and out there for sure. But yeah, this is how like I said, how I never laid hands on any 13th floor elevators on vinyl before now is beyond me. But this is insane. I love it. I mean, Roky Erickson's lyrics are so bizarre, but the way he delivers them, just so rapid fire and just so effortless, that it seems so natural, like it should make sense, even though a lot of it's just so out there. Even from the opening track, Slip Inside This House, which is probably my favorite track on this record. Although I do love the opening track on side 2, Earthquake, and I love Levitation as well. What a great song. But yeah, they also do a Dylan cover on this, which is I believe it's called Baby Blue. But when I did my research, it said that it was called oh, for crying out loud, I must have had it on. It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. But yeah, anyway, this is their second album. Of course, the first one, you know, they were one of the first bands to use the word psychedelic to describe their music. But yeah, this is their second album, and it's on the International Artists label, which is kind of a kooky looking label. There, I'll give you a little look at it there. But yeah, another band, Bubble Puppy, was on that label as well. I have something by them as well. But yeah, Austin, Texas band, basically had a falling out because of LSD use, for one thing, was rampant in the band. I mean, we all know that story. But the jug player, yeah, the electric jug is prominent on this record. But the jug player was heavy into the acid. And Roky was too, but Roky was also affected because he had, you know, mental illness to go with it. Yeah, he got busted on a felony drug charge. I guess he had like he was in possession of a single joint. I don't know, I can't remember the whole story, how they trumped up these charges, but his choice was to either go to prison or to go to a mental health hospital. And once he chose the mental health hospital, you know, they blasted him with electric shock therapy, and you know, who knows what would happen had he chose to go the prison route. Maybe Roky would still have his mind, and you know, we'd still have Roky around, and we would have seen more output from the Elevators, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's too bad. But the guy that played, what was his name? The guy that played the jug, you know, his thing was like, you know, do as much acid as you can, and you know, he wanted them to, his name was Tommy Hall, and he wanted them to perform, their whole thing had to be revolve around LSD, kind of heavy influence with Timothy Leary, and they wanted to, you know, record while on LSD. They wanted to play all their live shows while on LSD. And man, I don't know how they did it, man. I could barely talk. Anyway, 13th floor elevators. This is amazing. I love this. The electric jug is cool. I mean, it doesn't bother me. I mean, I don't know if it's as heavy on this album as it was the other album. Okay, moving right along because I don't want this to get too long, but my next record is from one gold album cover to another gold album cover. This is Exodus by Bob Marley and the Wailers. Oh man, I scored an amazing. I mean, look at this. This is so minty. I mean, there's not even any dents on the corners or anything. This is amazing. No splits. This is so mint. I mean, I wouldn't call it mint, but it is definitely a minty OG. And man, I was lucky to get this for I think less than $10, and it is just so good. It's Bob Marley and the Wailers. You know, I don't need to tell you about Bob Marley and his influence on reggae music and on the Jamaican culture itself, but he's one of those artists that actually transcends their genre, and even to the point where you can't talk about Jamaica, the island, or their culture without referring to Bob Marley. But the result of something that happened to Bob Marley and his wife, this was the result of that, the album, this Exodus. There was an assassination attempt on Bob Marley's life. His house was broken into. Him and his wife Rita, who was one of his I3s, who sang backup vocals for him, were both shot and survived this assassination attempt. But they were forced into a self-exile when they came to London, England, and then they recorded this album there. Boy, I'll tell you what, I think the exile to England might have actually been what this album needed to make it stand out from other reggae records. I mean, it's British punk was heavily influenced by reggae music and by Bob Marley's music, and vice versa. I think there's a certain amount of the British influence on this record. So I also want to make mention that Alex from Alex Record Room showed something today that would prove that, which is X-ray. He showed it down by X-ray specs with polystyrene. And if I remember right, they have kind of there's a little bit of reggae in their punk rock there too, and even the Clash used some reggae in their stuff. So yeah, I just wanted to make mention of that. But yeah, Exodus incorporated elements of blues, soul, British rock, and even some funk. This was both a commercial and a critical success. So and Bob Marley gained international fame and success due to this record. But yeah, it's got like a liquidy bass sound. It's funky. It's laid back. It's a different reggae album, and I absolutely fell in love with Bob. I fell in love with Jamaica and with reggae music. I went there back in, it was either the late 90s or early 2000s, and I absolutely fell in love with the culture. I fell in love with the island. I fell in love with the music. And I mean, even now when I hear songs like that are on this album, like Three Little Birds or One Love, I mean, it almost brings me to tears. I mean, that had that much of an effect on me. Going to Jamaica for me and my wife was almost like a religious experience. We absolutely adored the culture. Would love to go back too. So, yeah, just some great stuff. I've got one more album here, and hopefully this is worth the wait. I went the first time I seen this album at the store where I shop, where I've been telling you I've gained a lot of access to these records. The first time I seen Steve down there show this record, he was showing me some stuff he got, and he showed me some stuff he was not gonna put out. This album was one of those. It was a rare early 70s psychedelic album. There was a couple of them he wasn't going to put out to sell. And it took a few months, and all of a sudden I seen he had put it out. And he was ready, he was willing to price it and put it out there. And I was all over it like stink on poop. But it's by an American psych rock band formed in Connecticut. Outside of New Haven. You remember New Haven, right? New Haven, where Jim Morrison whipped out his ding-dong. I don't know if it was in New Haven or not, but anyway, the band was formed in 1966 in New Haven, and they started out as like a standard garage outfit, but then that was early on, but then they kind of transitioned into a psychedelic proto heavy metal band, and they released one cult classic album in 1970, and this album is that album, and that is Yesterday's Children. Now this is a radio promo, original copy, radio promo. As you can tell, it's got unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know which, but they wrote the call numbers from the radio station on the album cover there. K1, KY, it's either TC or IC. And also the filing number they put up here with masking tape. I'm not sure if I can get that off, if it's even worth the attempt or not. And then of course there's the not for sale sticker down here that shows that it's a promo. But there's the band there. This is a 1970 effort, their only album. Like I said, they started out as a highly aggressive garage band, and then, you know, they had some psych nuances, but, you know, they became this heavy, hard and heavy 70s band. And I think because this record came out, you know, maybe ahead of its time, it was not accepted, and it didn't even make a mark back then. But you know, the band has Dennis. First of all, the drummer is Chuck Maher right there. That's him right there. And then Reggie Wright on lead guitar is this fella right here. And then Dennis Croce is the vocalist here. And Ralph Muscatelli on drums right here. And there's Kurt, he's the light and sound man. That's cool, they put their light and sound man in there too. That guy second from the whatever year is my left. And Dennis Croce, the vocal, his brother Richard was the rhythm guitarist. So it was a 2-guitar attack. The singer had that kind of high-pitched, screechy voice that was later, you know, used by like Bon Scott and, you know, a lot of Southern rock guys. But it's got fuzzed out dual guitars. I mean, this, I've heard Dylan from Noble Records describe this as just a true burner, man. This thing is just rips ass, and it does. He was not exaggerating. I even got in touch with him and asked him, hey man, the guy's got this for 80 bucks. Is that it? I mean, I've seen it listed for as much as $300 to $400, and I was like, should I pick this up? I kind of described the condition to him, and even though I did not pay $80 for this, This is still the most I've paid for any given record in my collection. And this is amazing. I love this sound. And it came on this, on Map City, on the Map City label, which is a very cool looking label. Unfortunately, it does have the call letters on there again, but I'll show you the other side. But yeah, just a cool label. But yeah, Dylan said, yeah, man, you should go for it. So I ended up, I think, after bundling this with, I think I bought all 4 of the Kiss solo albums that had the OGs and had the posters in them. I think with those, I'm not going to tell you how much I spent, but this ended up probably costing me around 60 bucks. So, but well worth it for me, and just an amazing, amazing record. Good psychedelics, hard and heavy stuff. Well, I know this went long, but I had to show this. Like I said, this is some great records. I wanted to share this with y'all, but it's time to get you on your way. Good. Cheers to you, vinyl community and YouTube and the Gleam team out there. You guys have a good night, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the flip side.